All right, hello and welcome to whatwasthatradio.com's cheeky YouTube place space situation. Wonderful. Monotone voice. A conversation with Loser is probably one of the most profound and powerful I've had with an artist in my career. That's what drew me to this band in the first place. You see, the intricacies of the human mind fascinate me. If you were in a store and you saw someone smack their head on a beam and fall over, what would you do? Would you go over and try and help them? Would you pretend that you didn't see them for fear of causing embarrassment? Or would you just simply not give a shit? You know, I can't answer that for you. I know I would go over and be like, oh my gosh, are you okay? But for Tim, lead singer of this band, no one did that. And so when the first line of the first song of the record, All the Rage, one of my favorites of 2021, is him cheekily addressing that moment and the growth that came from it, you've got me. The authenticity, the accountability of one's actions, and the looking at growing moving forward is paramount. Before I get too Russell Brand on you, here's a conversation with Loser. Thanks for being here. And if you cheekily like or subscribe or share this video, know that I would massively appreciate it. But I don't expect it. You do what brings you joy on your terms, always.
Yo.
Hello, how are you?
Good, thanks, mate. How are you?
Good, thank you. I really appreciate your time, first off.
Oh, no worries. Appreciate you, setting this up. I'm just trying to get my AirPods working on a computer.
Yeah, this is the first stage of all Zooms, is the frustration of it doesn't react like it did yesterday. It's a whole new process of getting the audio set up.
Yeah, exactly. Well, as you can see, like I'm just sitting in a fucking messy studio at the moment, like with microphones and stuff everywhere, but I can't even get my own AirPods working.
There is zero stress and zero time expectation on this end. I mean, we still got to wait for the wonderful Craig.
Craig, yeah.
Hello to Steve in the chat. Thanks for joining us right at the start of the little conversation here. I appreciate it.
Here we go, I think. Do. All right. Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah. Sounding good.
Yeah, it's better.
Oh, right. So you've scrapped. Yeah, we're on the AirPods now.
Yeah, but for some reason, like, I can't, like, use them anywhere other than my phone and my laptop. Like, I try to do it because I, like, mix music as well. And sometimes I want to hear what it sounds like through AirPods. And some reason, some Macs just won't connect. It's just Apple being Apple.
Yeah, I feel like I have this conversation with my partner, Jody, multiple times, in the sense that every time there's an update that they think you need to download, they seem to stop things from working. It's Bluetooth. Do they connect through Bluetooth? It's Bluetooth.
Yeah, no, it's awful. Like, that's the thing. It's just like with some computers, you just don't update it because then you can't open certain files and stuff. It's annoying. But everything I own is Apple.
yeah, exactly. So, I mean, other than when I got this computer a year ago, which is Windows, but yeah, I've had the same phone for a long time, and I love to just go for walks and listen to music with my wireless headphones, and that's when I know I'm due an update because the headphones won't connect, and I spend half an hour getting wound up over no reason, and then go, oh, right, it's just another fucking update. What am I wasting my time for? It's amazing how, I mean, I'm excited for Craig to jump in as well, because that's what speaks volumes to me about your music, is the authenticity. That's what I'm attracted to with music. And that's why I'm so excited to get the chance to just befriend you two, pick your brain a little bit and just get to know each other. And the key to this...
Well, hell yeah.
Oh, here comes Craig now. Let's get Craig in. This is good. Then I don't repeat my passionate opening twice. All right.
There he is.
We'll do the audio connecting shuffle. God, he looks fresh. That
What's
all white
up,
room.
John?
Crisp
How are you,
white.
man?
Look at this. Pleasure to meet you. Thanks for your time.
You too, man.
I'm glad that I didn't get the looking fresh because I just woke up and I've been like the night yesterday. I was at a casino till like 4 a.m. for our drummer's wedding. So, well, not our drummer's wedding, our drummer's. You get it. the after party.
Well, I mean, there's no hidden insult in there, Maxwell. I mean, it's fabulous to see you. I'm not going to force any energy that doesn't exist, but no, I mean, it's with Craig coming in. Craig looks like he literally just painted the room and decorated it for an IKEA catalog. He's ready to go. Like, it's a very different room setup.
I was born with assembly instructions in my hand. I'm ready to go.
Well, the first thing I wanted to say to you too is that, again, as I've already said, is that I appreciate your time. But the most important thing about any conversation I have is I don't expect any answer unless there's comfort. And so this is very much three gentlemen getting to know each other in this moment that all have a common passion in rock and roll and authenticity. And so it's just a case of you are going to share Maxwell and you are going to share Craig. Sorry. Yeah, no, I don't know why I keep saying Tim and Maxwell. I just may as well just, do you have a middle name that I can just riddle off the whole thing? I'm getting very, the whole way through here. But
my middle name's Douglas, but I don't mind being called Maxwell because I've been getting called Meatball all weekend, so it's sweet.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, it's important that you both know that we're just going to have a conversation. We're just going to get to know each other. And you're going to share what you want to or what you don't. And I'll be frank with you both at the very start of this, in the sense that it's been a really difficult mental health day for me. I felt very unbalanced and very anxious all day, due to a multitude of reasons that I'm not going to treat you guys like my counselors. I was talking to Jody, my partner, before this, and saying, I don't know, there's a lot of similarities here in the lyrical content, but the main thing is about you two and about this band. But just in case, because I'm a little bit disheveled to start this, and the fact that I've written down Tim, Maxwell, and Craig when I'm speaking to two people probably gives you an inkling as to where the balance is right now. But I'm so excited to chat with you.
So, John, appreciate you being frank and honest. We are very much frank, honest, chill guys. So I'm sure we'll get along fine. And don't feel like you gotta hide how you're feeling or whatever. Tim and I are well versed in feeling unbalanced from time to time. And we also just love meeting new people and talking tunes. So I think it's going to be sweet, man. This is chill space.
Yeah, and by all means, I'm not nervous at all. I've been very fortunate to be able to do, professional broadcasting for the last 10 years. This is just a new adventure in the sense that I left because I was yearning more growth. And let's just dive in. For goodness sake, lads, let's just dive in. I want to head straight into all the rage. And I think it's important to credit as well. I actually only discovered this article with NME about 3 days ago. I first became aware of you two and the band Loser due to Violent Soho and the connection there. Those guys are insanely talented, and I keep an eye on the way that I discover music. Is like, let's say I discover Loser, I then go through what are the last 5 bands you played with, what are the last 5 tours you were on as a support, and then I create like a map around the actual initial discovery to then go, well, what fruit can bear from this one tree, because we're all connected. So that's where I first stumbled across you. But this article with Craig Mathewson is tremendously powerful. There was a great article I found as well with goodcoollive.me. It's a shorter one, but that is where I learned this is what's interesting, you see, Tim, is the 2 starts to the very first song on the album. And in the NME article, I get what I attached to when I first heard your music was, I believed you. I think a lot of the world of music, you have 2 ways of songwriting. You can jump into the world that you want to create. You allow a bit of space for the listener to galvanize a thought and dive into it. Or you're very frank in saying, this is fucking me. This is how I am.
Yeah.
And what I love about your fearless writing is just that. And what I love about what I learned in the gclive.me is the almost whimsical starting of that song, in that it was just from a smack to the head. And so I remember what that brought me back to was when I was 12 years old and I was just starting secondary school, and every school's got their big guy in the class who likes to assert his authority. And I came into school in like week 3 or 4 and had an old fashioned door slammed on my head without any idea. As I was walking in, this whole thing comes crumbling down, and I just like black out on the floor. No one does anything for about 5-10 minutes. And then the teacher goes, oh, Jonathan's on the floor. You're in a store. You just want to try on your new hip shirt and you deck yourself. Next step.
Yeah, that was a very steel beam. Like it was something that you'd see like in wartime or something. Like the whole shop was set up to be like trendy and vintagey, but this thing was so big, and it went straight into my big old head, which has already been hit multiple times. Scooters, heaps of shit, like just added on.
I need to find a way to get both of you in this view because Craig's reactions are priceless. Because it just goes right now with the speaking view. So for my future interviews, I will do a better job of making sure that I can see everyone at the same time because it's just you and me right now. Yeah, I've got so many questions. But I don't want to ask any until I feel that we've connected a little bit more. So
can I throw something in the mix?
Yes, yes.
Because I know you're in Canada right now. Obviously, you're not from there, but you've immigrated there and you're kicking ass on Canadian soil. I got a few questions for you from someone who also wasn't raised in Canada, but I'm super interested in the Curse of Oak Island, Dream Theater, Pup the band, and Rush.
Okay.
Are they, in my mind, everyone in Canada talks about 1 to 4 of those things. Is that true?
So you miss out on Neil Young and Black Mountain, but I'll leave it there.
Oh, Black Mountain.
Good point.
One of the last shows I saw before the shutdown. What a band. Anyway, the 3 of those things, I'll be honest with you, I got no idea what you're talking about, Craig. I don't, 3 of those. No, obviously I know Rush, but and Pup are actually dear friends of mine. Pup are a band I was desperately trying to get on commercial rock radio 10 years ago when I was working at the Zone across town here in Victoria on Vancouver Island. And they played a show. I saw them open up for a band called Colorado at one of our bigger venues here. And they blew me away. And so, I mean, I was friends with Colorado from proxy of the wonderful connections you get from radio and wasn't emceeing that night, but had access and with the club and everything. And I live around the corner. I could go backstage and be like, I want to meet you. And I want to try and get you on radio, but I'm nowhere near the deciding factor in that process, but I can be loud. And so started a friendship, and they actually invited me down to Seattle the next weekend, and I went down and played their roadie for a few days because I'd always dreamed of going to KEXP. And they said they were going to do a KEXP. Yeah. And so this was right before KEXP were going to, their new studio was literally a few months away from being done. So they were going to move out of that legendary space where Soundgarden and Pearl Jam and everyone had performed in, that little grotty room that is so small. I don't know how they fit the whole band in there, let alone they've also got then 4 or 5 camera crew in there that are filming it. And I just leapt at it and said, I've never been to Seattle. I've never been to KEXP. We barely know each other, but we've got some common threads, which is that we sat down and really dived into mental health. I was going through trying to realize a bipolar diagnosis and trying to figure that out. And Zach, the drummer, was trying to figure out things as well. And so we literally spent most of our time with the Menzingers in Seattle and with California, just sat down talking about how do we cope? What do you do to stop the thousands of threads of thoughts that can try to self-destruct? And just very authentic conversation came about. And I adore them. They're one of the hardest working bands I've ever encountered. I mean, I'm only 34. I'm not by any means a grandpa. I mean, the grandpa in this chat is Craig. We all know that. And
that's right.
And so
I was super lucky enough to be able to play 22 shows with them with my old band apart from this.
Oh, wow.
Absolutely lovely people. Yeah.
Yeah. And my old band, the Bennies, used to play with them a lot too. We actually played with them at Fest, probably around the time of the first album, and cotton onto them. It's probably similar time. Maybe you might have got onto them a bit before us, but yeah, we got nothing but respect for them down here. Everyone loves Pup.
Still, it was a crazy thing once you think of it, like for because the band Smith Street Band brought them out, but like, you know, they had the money to do that, but like no one would know who they are really, so they had to like come here a few times. But it's wild how popular they are now, and you know, they play a bigger venue each time, and then on our like radio stations and stuff. It's so good. Like that band needs to be appreciated.
Yeah, I think so hard. They deserve it, everything and more.
I forget the exact detail, but they broke a Guinness World Record for the most shows in a year.
Whoa,
really?
I think they did like 4 or 5 years ago for an emerging band. There's all these different systems with it, but I think they pitched it and said, surely they played 300 plus or 200 plus shows one year or something all around the world. I
wonder mental health bled its way in. I mean, for even, you know, like that's tough. That's tough.
They should also win the award for the best videos consecutively.
Yeah. But I think that's the power of exactly what galvanized me to touch base with you. It's the power of authenticity. It's they've got their crew, they've got their team. They all know exactly how they are, how they function, and what they're trying to do. And it's even in their latest press release.
Not scared to talk about it.
Exactly. When Waiting came out the other 2 weeks ago, and they were like, "Look, their press releases are always so authentic." And I'll say that word probably 58 more times in this conversation, but it's what I think the world is galvanized by. And I think certainly during the pandemic, it's not like we weren't aware of mental health and difficulties in human existence. But I think during the pandemic, it has certainly given a lot of people time to sit back or to dive into the thought process of every little thing. And that can be very dangerous.
Totally.
But it can also be very revealing and positive in the sense of how you wish to then tackle. I mean, that's, again, it brings me back to the likes of the songs like Head First, Don't Leave Me, All I Need, Time Won't Wait, Skyward. I mean, those are songs that I listened to, and yes, they are listed to my left. I'm not that good a memory in this moment, but that's what I kept coming back to with those songs over and over and over again. And I really appreciate, Tim, that you're here, because in doing my research, it's usually Craig that I see in a couple of the video ones.
It's usually because I'm sleeping.
Yeah, it's funnily enough, probably two of the ones you watched, Tim accidentally slept through. And so before we got on the call today, I was calling him. I'm like, are you up? Are you up? Because I knew he'd been out. And he's like, nah, man, I've set like 10 alarms. I'll be there. So, yeah.
He beat you here. It was perfect timing.
YouTube's a hell of a place, man. I just sit there till 4 o'clock in the morning and can't sleep.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've been addicted to YouTube too the last year, in just going to the school of YouTube and learning design, production, all these things that I needed to in order to launch What Was That? You know, I just was again, this was born out of a lust to just keep growing and keep going. I love when you spoke to NME that you were saying, Tim, that life is what, this isn't verbatim, but life is what you make of it. Do I want to just go and clock into the 9 to 5 and just be miserable knowing that I'm not allowing my creative to flow? And so for me, after 10 incredible years of growing and learning alongside great people that I used to work with in commercial radio that I chased for 20 years, 15 years prior to that, I didn't like just going in and just making a midday show and feeling like, okay, I prepped for an hour before it. I've got my 16 breaks across 4 hours and then I'm done. I wanted to completely put on a pedestal as many new bands as possible, because I fought for 5 years to get a new music exposure show that I played you guys in a year and a half ago. And even then I was still battling with, well, can we still make sure we sprinkle Nirvana and Soundgarden in? And so, no disrespect, some of my favorite bands, but I just yearn for that new connection. And especially when you guys are talking about Pup. I love that that's the first way we go about connecting, Craig. Some list of, I still don't know what the first thing was. It sounded like a horror film. I don't know what that is.
Curse of Oak Island. I'll show you. It's my favorite TV show.
Oh, it's a TV show. I don't watch TV. I don't.
Ah, there you go.
I have no idea.
Real life treasure hunt with the Lagina brothers. So if there's anyone
I love it. You got a frame.
It's on your desk.
Yeah.
Wow, you really are the showroom of IKEA. That's creepy.
And that's it. And you may or may not enjoy this one, but that's the Darkness signposter.
Oh, I love that too. Yeah. Yeah.
Faves.
Well, one of the first people I met in radio was their sound tech, and I just got employed at the station, and he was like, "Oh, you're English," and I went, "Yes, I am." And he said, he said, "No, it doesn't matter." And then we went because he was a guest in to meet my boss, and we went to get him a coffee, and there was a Darkness signed photo on the wall. He went, "Oh, I just got back with them, and I was going to ask you if you knew them, and I could get you in touch with them." So, oh my gosh.
Awesome.
So this is what radio is. I get to meet Justin Hawkins, baby. Boo, 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 boo. Yet to meet Justin Hawkins, but yet to meet.
So if you're British and you don't watch TV, do you know what Peep Show is?
I love Peep Show, though. You can't. I mean,
we go.
Since I moved here, I mean, yes, I do. Jodie and I do watch the odd thing on Netflix, but I don't know. I just found the last 4 or 5 years that my mind was so wonderfully ready to dive into someone else's narrative that I wanted to keep my own straight. So I didn't want to start. That's again. I mean, that's a lyric in what song am I going off about here? On the Edge. What am I? Like when you're saying I don't watch TV because I don't want to be
upside down,
right? Upside down. I don't want to see all the nonsense necessarily. It's not that you don't care about it, it's just that you don't want to affect yourself in a negative way in that moment about it.
just the
Totally.
Poison
That's weird. It's
thing.
weird about it's weird about that song because, like, I mean, it was written so much longer ago than before when the pandemic was happening, and I found that like a lot of the lyrics make sense after the fact. It's not like I was trying to do that, but it's eerie how like much it makes sense now. It's crazy.
So, because I mean, the record is only a year and a bit after the debut comes about. And
yeah,
so,
but a lot of the songs were being written before that as well.
yeah, because I imagine from when I was listening to Craig, your interview, and I really forget what I was watching just before this, you were saying that, I thought I wrote it down. Mindless Joy was the first song that Tim had brought to Craig initially, and that was the galvanization of what became Loser. Am I correct in that?
Yeah, a song called Phase Me.
Phase Me, sorry,
which was on the Restless Noise EP. And I mean, we recorded that. That was our fourth jam as a band. We recorded that in January 2018. And then the EP didn't come out till November. So we spent that whole year writing because we just loved it. And then by the time that EP was out, we were ready to record 2 more albums, but we had to wait another year to record Mindless Joy. So then by the time we recorded it and put it out, the pandemic hit. We'd been writing again for another whole year waiting. So all of a sudden, by the time it's time for All the Rage, we've got 3 albums worth of material pre-written and writing new stuff because we're now stuck at home with nothing else to do. So we just couldn't wait, man.
Well,
we're working on the next one now.
Well, I'm glad you put it out.
The problem is when you write that much music that early and you're such a fresh band, you don't know what you want to sound like, because we obviously went from a 3-piece to a 5-piece, then back to a 4-piece, and it's crazy.
But how do you then balance out, like when you're sitting down going, well, I want to put this fucking record out, all the rage. How do you pick away at those songs? Did you want to be cognizant of the moment and the world the way it is right now? Or did you want to just go, no, fuck it. This is where we were in that moment. This is different, but put it out. Yeah,
totally. I guess we wanted like a mix of everything that we were sort of writing at the time, like a bit of heaviness. And I mean, like, I say this all the time, and you probably read it through heaps of interviews, but like the Mindless Joy was like the whole 90s thing. And this was more about the 2000s, and like we wanted to like get in a lot of the more songs like Skyward and Head First, which is like Foo Fighters and Queens of the Stone Age vibe, but also show them that we can do like stuff that could be like Green Day or Smashing Pumpkins. It's sort of like a nice little mix that's like put into like a whole like album it doesn't have a song over 3 minutes 30, you know what I mean? Like a nice little tight package for people, because like it's not like the album is dead, but a lot of people can't be bothered listening to an album. It's just like, come on, there's half an hour, you can do it.
Do you find that comes from a place of just the growth and the journey of the bands prior up to that point, that you're like, okay, well look, I want to try this now, let's really tighten the nut and have it be a standalone half an hour, boom boom boom?
Yeah, Craig played a huge part in that.
Yeah, I think it was just more about like, I don't think we didn't specifically write this album as one piece. Obviously, we had so many other songs, but once we listened to them all, there was just a certain group that kept putting their hand up to go together. And so once we knew that, we just honed in on those ones. And it turns out they were the snappier songs. I mean, we didn't do a lot of editing to sort of make the songs more concise. We just chose the songs that had tighter arrangements as a group for this one. And it was more about setting ourselves up for the future. Like, we see, one thing we've learned from being in bands forever is that like the faster you go up, the faster you come down. And it's not like we're trying to not be as big as possible or whatever, but it's not the priority. The priority is that we want to do this as our careers forever. And if it takes a little longer, that's fine, but we want to set up a proper base first and build on it, very much like Violent Soho. And so this album was meant to have a lot of breadcrumbs so we could expand and it wouldn't feel like a huge leap from Mindless Joy to the next one. And hopefully now we've got options to go a bit more down the acoustic-y Beatles path, a bit more down the Foo Fighters path, a bit more down the Loser path. And that was more of a reflection at the end once we knew what songs we wanted and where to put them on the album, but it wasn't really a conscious thing. It was more like you said, like at this moment, this is where we're at, and let's reflect that, but let's be smart about doing it the best way we possibly can. That was sort of the mindset.
Yeah, it wasn't like we were like trying to tailor it to be radio ready. It was more so just like, let's make it immediate, you know?
Okay, well, that's a key differential right there, because in having had some incredible conversations with bands the last year that aren't, this isn't said from a bragging standpoint. This was just due to the proxy of where I was and the fortune of being able to speak with. The last interviews I did commercially right at the start of the pandemic before I quit were with Black Pumas, 21 Pilots, and AWOL Nation and people like that. And that's incredible. That's something that I cherish and I'll always adore. But what I have found heartbreaking in the last year, it's not dramatic. I'm aware of what I'm saying with that. It's heartbreaking is speaking to near 50 bands that are at the start of their journey, maybe one record, maybe the second one has just come out, maybe one EP and the first album's come out, is that it's that never ending, wow, radio, that comes up. And radio is tremendously powerful. I have an issue with when radio molds and shapes the creation in the first place, because if you're writing for someone that isn't you, it's not going to work. That's my honest opinion. Now, you can absolutely bring to the table all the pop songs in the world that are tripe. But that's a whole different conversation. If I'm looking at modern rock, it devastates me when bands feel, I'm just not this, I'm just not that, I need to be it. Whereas I immediately dive into the authenticity. That's why, actually, last night I wrote down, because I usually, and I do this at the end of our conversations, I like to throw 4 or 5 bands that I think would galvanize the band I'm speaking to and that they need to know of. Because something that I would love to do down the line is what I love about that answer, Craig, and I'm going to stop myself here and note this, is that the maturity of that answer and the maturity of this is about the journey. It's not a fucking race. And so with what was that, I know where this can get to because I had 10 incredible years of success in commercial radio prior. This is a very different animal. So it's not going to just have by default the same people. Those 50,000 aren't just going to come and follow me that listen to me every day. Now it's 10 or 20. And it's about the slow growth. Now in this moment, there's currently 67 monthly subscribers that back me $7 a month. So it's about the journey. This is the 14th month of what was that. And my goal, to get to my point, is that what I would like to be able to do in 5 to 10 years from now is fly you here and put on a showcase and surround you with bands that I wrote down last night when I was struggling a bit, just to switch off. Bands like Kikapichi and Yonica and Calva Louise and Spiral Drive and Combos and Sophisticated Dingo that you might know, and Soft Cult and Bexley and St. Agnes and Velveteers. Because I want to put these bands on a pedestal to be discovered. I'm talking a free show down in the harbour here in Victoria. That's the goal of one of the things that I'd like to build to. And another thing that your answer inspired is that the way I look at as a musicologist at records, I have a very fucking Beatles haircut today after the shower. It's not been cut in a while, and it's I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. But side note, but I remember being at Reading Festival 13, 14 years ago, and I was obsessed at the time with Funeral for a Friend. I'm not sure if you're aware of that Welsh emotional rock band. And they just released a record that was getting a bit of panning because it was a bit more mainstream. And I always look at things as being, well, the artist is going to make their creation first. And for me, it was sculpturing a set of energy. You know, not everything can be the same. People like that, but not necessarily the bands want to do that. You've got to build that story and that journey. You're talking about, okay, we're going from one EP to All the Rage to this to that. It's the journey. So that's my 2 cents from what you just shared. And so when you've got All the Rage, you know it's done. So but you built the studio before or after it, the new studio, didn't you?
It was before, yeah. So like I was living out of home at the time, and my parents are super supportive of me, and they've seen me work and, you know, doing actual jobs in like a front room of their old house and stuff like that. And, you know, one thing they wanted to really do was be able to have like a studio space for me and my brother to work in and stuff. Then Will bailed, and now it's just my studio, and this is where I work out of. And I'd like to say me and Craig spent heaps of hours in here at All the Rage, but we spent more time on FaceTime.
So was it? So is this Restless Noise, or is that somewhere else then?
Restless Noise, baby.
There we go. There it is. If it's got a sign, it's the real fucking deal.
Yep.
Shit, I need a sign.
Yeah, you need a sign. You need a sign.
Yeah, no, and it's so that's in the garage, in the spare room, or how is that alignment in the house? And how
Yeah,
do the parents feel about it a year later, or however long it's been since you built it?
no, they love it, and I've like produced albums out of here and stuff, which is really cool. It's cool to have a body of work like All the Rage that me and Craig produced, the first record that we ever produced together. So like it's cool to have that on our plate and be able to tell people that we did it, most of it here and stuff, which is really cool. And it's just something very proud to say that we both produced that record. It's crazy.
Do you think there's something to be said for the rise of creation and the impact it's made? And certainly, TikTok has been a big part of this new. Hotel Mirror are a band from Vancouver that I've known for years, and Charlie's been a dear friend, and they have just exploded on TikTok the last 4 or 5 months, and it has completely turned their career on their head. And it goes back to authenticity for me.
Totally.
Do you feel in Australia, do you see in the music around you this garage band and true garage band feel of exhilarating music that's come out the last year? Because for me, what I love about it is that artists are getting a chance to curate and produce their own work. And that all is such an extension of personality that it just screams, get involved. For me, I'm just like, as soon as I feel that energy, I'm like, oh, this whole thing's going down. Let's do the whole record right now. Is that happening over there? Do you feel, have you got friends in other bands or even for yourself? What does that galvanize in you?
Yeah, I'm totally in touch with that exact energy. I think it's awesome. And like Tim's produced a lot of bands like that out of his studio now. Like we're going local and just trying to it's funny, like because the quality of recording and everything is improved so much, it's more, I found like when we try to help other bands, because Tim and I like to give back. We've been around for such a long time and we've had people help us along the journey, guys like File and Soho and Pop and everybody. And so when you get to some sort of situation where you can try and give back, we try to do that. And it's funny now that the recording and everything is so good and so immediate that bands can, like you say, it's almost like an extension of the song. Bands can almost, while they're writing, produce it in their mind because they know how to put it together on the grid and get it happening. But it's become now more about coaching the right mindset to bands, because the music's taking care of itself. So producing is almost more about coaching the bands to be authentic and remind themselves that, just because something blows up on TikTok, they see that for another band and go, oh, now we have to get on TikTok and we've got to do that. It's like, no. That probably blew up for them because they've done 10 years of their own thing and they know exactly who they are. And people connected with them being themselves, not them trying to be a TikTok band. And you just got to keep reminding bands, it's like the energy and the vibe comes from you being real and doing it because you love it. That's a bigger magnet than chasing other people and trying to chase what's popular. And that's a huge, we can get into the mental health of social media and all that stuff, but I've seen that affect bands so significantly when you just have to get them in a room and say, do you know what? This is actually the fun bit. And if you're not having fun, just the 4 of you doing what you love, it's not going to be any more fun in front of 10,000 people or with 50 million likes. You know what I mean? This is it. This is the good shit. So enjoy this and other shit will come,
It's like what you're saying, like with the like authenticity sort of thing. It's like I remember when the album came out, me and Will like did this TikTok of us like singing and like acting like TikTok people, and nobody cared. It's just like people can smell the bullshit. It's just like that was our try, and then it's just like nah, back off. It's like let's just like do solo Sundays and show people that we can shred metal solos. We don't need to act like some pop punk superstar in front of the camera. It just doesn't work, and people can smell that.
Yeah, and that's that. I'll be honest with you. That's been a battle for me the last year in looking at and not realizing all of a sudden when you leave the safety of the commercial realm that I've had the last 10 years, and then looking and seeing, oh, this person's got a Patreon, this person's starting a podcast, this person's starting a podcast, and absolutely, I had moments where I was like, well, I'm fucking doing that. I can fucking do this. That's what I do. and then you just waste so much time. Time, and it's so sad because there's space for everyone. There's billions of us fuckers here. There's space for us all to go and get it. The only thing that bothers me about some of the experts you see online that say, I forget this New York guy. Probably best that I don't say his name. It's like, oh, you should be doing at least 4 TikToks a day. You should be doing at least 58 Facebook posts a day. You should be doing da. Well, I mean, he's just got to his. For me, look, confidence is a wonderful thing, and confidence, is the drug that we haven't got a class on as how dangerous it can be. Because with a little bit of swagger and confidence, I'm talking old school swagger, not fucking cheap t-shirts and shitty diamond rings. I'm talking actual swagger where someone walks in and you're like, who the fuck is this?
Yeah.
That can get you a long way. And so that's where that's what's so refreshing actually, Craig. Here's what I want to ask you is the way that you've spoken during this so far, when you look back at Craig 10 years ago, what does that look like compared to now? What are things that you're proud of in your growth as a human to this point?
Well, he definitely had more hair, so that's one big difference.
You've gone straight to third person, right? Okay,
yeah,
right.
No, I'll tell you what. I think I'm proud. One thing that's shaped me is not only have I been blessed to have a good family and good friends around me. I've had some big struggles over the last 10 years that I don't really want to go into too specifically, but they involve loss and mental health issues around OCD. But the one thing I think has been, I've been lucky enough to have good family and friends. So I've never felt afraid to try and fail. And so I think the things that have shaped me most have been making heaps of mistakes and then just get like dusting off, throwing a high five and just getting back on it. And I think that's like in a world where there's so much technology and everything looks perfect, I'm finding a lot of young people are so afraid to look stupid or not perfect because everything they're comparing themselves to is so perfect. They're stunting growth. And I really feel like the amount of mistakes I've made has made me feel more fearless about trying new things and being more genuine, because part of being authentic is it's just your confidence within yourself. And I think when you've just made that many errors and you've just kept going, you kind of feel a bit more bulletproof, and so you can just stand your ground and be okay that other people are comparing themselves and you're like, no man, I'm just going to be me. So I think that's 10 years of life experience that you have to carry with you. And I just feel grateful for that, and that I've had good people to bounce off along the way.
And so, Craig, what are some things that you felt that you've armed yourself with for those difficult moments where you might fall into a negative mindset or negative narrative building? For me, I like to note things down. And by that, I note down everything awesome, every silly, cheesy joke from a hangout or something silly someone said I overheard somewhere, or a great something, anything and everything awesome. And I drink a shit ton of tea too.
Right on. Yeah, I think probably so early on when I had clinical OCD, which I still have. You can't get rid of it. You just manage it. But obviously that's just anxiety manifesting in that form. It could be anything. So it's basically anxiety. But one of the things I learned was to go in the brain gym and build character that way. So it was like, in order to, I don't want to go too far into this if no one's interested, but
I'm always interested. The most important thing is your comfortability. I'll listen to it. I'm game for it. Cool. I've had a lot of horrible shit happen and we could get dark, but I mean, so you go with what you want to go into and your comfort always, Craig.
Alrighty. Beautiful. So when the OCD was really bad, it was one of those things where everything felt dangerous. So it's like, if I don't put my left shoe on before my right shoe, my mum's going to die, or this is going to happen, or whatever. And it sounds pretty wild out loud, but you know what it's like internally when you have that pang of anxiety. It feels completely real in the moment. And the best way to get through that was to confront those fears and sit with them. And the more you do that, the littler ones fall away, and you just focus on the big ones. So, you just keep basically every day, and everything you do is rooted in the anxiety. So it's like every time I touch a doorknob, every time I wash my hands, whatever. So every decision you make is based on a fear trigger. and you need to offset that by doing a ritual or something like that. And so basically to get through it, you have to confront things constantly that induce fear and sit with them. So it's like, okay, if I don't put my left shoe on, my mum's going to die and I'm going to feel responsible that I did that. But what I have to do is not put my left shoe on first. And it sounds silly and like it's not that hard or whatever, but in the moment, it's pretty wild. And so it's okay, I'll put my right shoe on first and sit there and just freak about that I've killed my mum until that feeling goes away. And then it'll come back when you remember. And then you just wait and let it go away again. And then it's basically like every time you confront a fear and sit with it, you don't actually do anything. I don't try to stop being afraid. I don't try to do anything. Just sit there and go, well, that's fucked. And you wait and it goes away. And then the next time it's not as hard. It's like every time it slowly goes down like that till the point where you're just chucking on your shoes and getting on with it. And so by starting with small things like my shoes or whatever it is, the light switch, you then start to build that muscle. And then when you start doing other things that might be fear inducing, like doing an interview or talking publicly or starting a new podcast, you start to recognize the fear trigger as just that. And then so you go, okay, rather than be like, how do I live my life so I'm never afraid of things? You then become comfortable with the fear because it's not fear inducing anymore. It's just something you notice. So it's like, I don't want to start a Patreon because everyone's going to think I'm a wanker. And then you go, all right, well, I'll just sit with that for a minute. And then you go, well, I'm going to start it anyway. You know what I mean? And you don't, if it doesn't work out, so what? I'll delete my Patreon. You know what I mean? But it's like, if you let it all get in your head, like I'm sure all three of us know all about it. I mean, Tim and I have discussed this a lot. It will then become more powerful than it actually is. So like the biggest thing was just sitting with discomfort to the point where it becomes comfortable, because no feeling good or bad can ever last. And the issue with, I've found, is trying to cling to either of them. It's not that you don't enjoy a good feeling or a bad feeling, but it's when you try to keep a good feeling longer than it's meant to stay, or you try to fight off a negative feeling because you don't want to experience it, when you just realize they all just come and go. And that's the muscle that you keep squeezing. You know what I mean? It's the pause button. And so I just try to practice that as much as I can. And then it starts to flow on and become a natural response to things. The first thing I do now is wait and let whatever's going to happen rather than react. And it's just like, that's the best thing that's ever happened to me, I think. And that came from a negative experience of OCD, but now you can apply that to anything. You know what I mean? It's like, taking it back to bands and social media. Like, you can see when that guy Gary V you were talking about, when he does,
damn
like,
it, you said his name.
you got to do that. Sorry, that guy Gary V. Like, we could go through right now every band, local band's social media page, and we can pinpoint the exact moment they watch one of his videos, and you can see their next 6 pieces of content where they were like, oh, I got to do more, blah, blah, blah. And then a week later, they feel like they haven't achieved what he has in a week. They start feeling worse about themselves, blah, blah, blah. And then they just go back to their normal self-loathing cycle. Why can't I be as popular as this guy or whatever? When what everyone needs to do is watch that video, if it comes into their sphere, sit there and go, when you get that pang, that's like, I need to do something. Because the whole point of his video is you need to do stuff. You need to do this. You need to do that. Everyone's just got to like feel that and be like, okay, I feel the need to do something, but I don't know. I'll just keep doing what I'm doing. You know, it's nice to have this new information and maybe I can glean something from him about confidence, or maybe he said something relevant, but I don't need to feel this instantaneous pull to act. And I think that is what everyone's phone is doing. Everyone's phone is saying, act now, do this, or you're going to miss out or whatever. And the more you can flex that muscle of like, don't act, you know what I mean? Just be real, do what you love. If you find something that you love to do, like I want to go write a song with Tim, act. But don't see someone else announcing a tour and be like, I need to announce a tour. I need to get on that. Why wasn't I on this festival? It's like, whoa. That's not why you're doing it. You know what I mean? Like, you didn't start this radio show, which I consider to be your band. You know, if we're talking in analogies, like, you didn't start your band to be Patreon guy. You started it to connect with other people and put together a pedestal for bands and music that you love, because you love to talk about it with other people. And it's like, all you got to do is keep remembering that and doing it. And all the other stuff, what you watch a million videos and have other guests that tell you, you should do this, you should do that. Well, this is a perfect example. It's like, all you need to do is just do what you're doing for ages, and it'll be awesome.
Thank you. The eloquency of that share was extremely powerful. I'll be frank with you. I was considering rearranging this interview just due to how anxious my day was. And it's not that I never have any nerves in conversing. I've got no nerves in talking about that at all. I'm an open book. Transparency is utterly key. My angle, so that you both understand, was that I felt it would be a disservice to you two if I wasn't ready to go like I was yesterday. But you can't be every day. Craig, what you've just shared, I could thank you 10,000 times for, and it wouldn't lose power fucking once. Let me make that very clear. Secondly, Tim, when you've got a friend like this in your corner, do you remember the first time you met this guy? What an incredible man this Craig seems to be. Where did you first meet him? What's that memory?
I'm pretty sure it would have been on a Benny's tour or a show. I can't remember if we played a show together. Yeah, we would have played a show together first before we toured.
We met in Tassie at All Tomorrow.
That's it. Yeah, we were sitting around in a hotel room, and like my band, apart from this, was like sort of fresh into this what's called Poison City Records. We were all on that label at the time, and we played a show and stuff, and they were just like sitting around in a room, like literally just like singing our praises. And I was just like, wow, these people are super nice, you know. And I've just like always made a fact to just always hang out with people that are older than me, because I feel like it helps me learn. And that's why it's so great to have a friend like Craig, because, you know, he speaks words of wisdom like that, and he makes me want to just go out the door and not say a word.
Well, I mean, that was one of the things that you shared that really hit me when I discovered the article with NME a few days ago, and the chat with Craig Matheson, if I'm pronouncing that right, was when, okay, it's time to start recording All the Rage in this new album, and the anxiety at the start there. And again, you guys are going to share what you're going to share, but I mean, Tim, if I imagine it was anything like that Craig just shared, you wanted to run through a fucking brick wall after that. And look at the record you made.
See, the difference between me and Craig's journey is that I'm a bit more influenced by drugs and stuff. So like that doesn't help at all. Like I've spent way more years in pain by not doing anything about anything, because I just literally just close off everything and everyone, you know. Like it only became apparent to me once my body was actually hurting. Like I thought it was from all like this abuse of drugs and stuff, where it was literally like anxiety that was eating my body alive. Like it was crazy, because like this would have been going on for like at least 4 to 6 years, but like in the last sort of like 5 years, it became really apparent. And I only like made the choice to get on medication at the start of the pandemic, but like before that, and I mean, it still happens a bit, but like I have a thing called like, it's like cognitive dissonance. So like, say if I'm in a car, I want to throw my phone out the window. If I'm on a balcony, I want to jump off that. If I'm in front of a train, I want to jump in front of the train. If I see somebody who has a bad complexion or something, I want to scream out these things. And like my brain is telling me to do all those things, and I can't control it, and it just hurts, you know what I mean? So like pair that with like all the pain literally running through my body, and like still like years and years of not doing anything about it. It literally took my body to like eat me alive before it was just like, okay, I have to do this. And like at that point when we were like recording, like, yeah, there was a day I remember where I've spoken about it heaps in the articles. It's just like, yeah, I just like broke down in front of Craig. It was just like, I don't know what's wrong with me. I'm scared, you know, like I'm petrified. Like I don't drive because I'm like, my mum's got anxiety, and like she's got the same thing where she's just like, she gets in a car and she hears sirens and thinks everybody's going to die, sort of thing. I have the same thing where it's just like, if I leave home, I'm worried about my dog dying or somebody else dying. You know, when I went to America, I was on the other side of the world and I hated it because I was behind. And it's just like all these thoughts that eat you up and you can't control it. And that's why I'm so lucky that like once you start to open up about it and realize that a lot of other people are like that, especially like my family as well, you know what I mean? It's crazy like how much better you can feel once you actually open up and know that there's not too much wrong with you. You just need to sort yourself out.
Yeah, the conversation is so key. It's so key. And that's really all you need to say about that, is that you just, anyone that listens or watches and comes across this, you gotta fucking converse. Context is paramount. It is. And everyone's allowed to feel how they feel. You're allowed, nothing is better or worse than you or anywhere in between. You matter, and it's important. And so that's why for me, the only thing I wrote down when I listened to the record was growth. That's the only thing I wrote down after listening to it multiple times. And by the way, I don't just do one or two. This is not a brag. This is just how my fucking mind works, is that I go through a song and I listen 30 times. The first time I'm going, okay, what's the vocal doing? The second time, what's the BV doing? What's the second BV doing? What's the third BV doing? What's the first, second, third, fourth, fifth guitar? What's the synth? And I look at, like when I go to watch shows, and I know for the several people watching right now, you might have heard me go off on this in every single conversation, because the context for the person I'm speaking to is important, in the sense that I'm the guy at the show that watches and analyzes, not negatively. I'm not there like, fuck up, be bad, don't go. I'm at the back with my big puffer jacket, the big Liam Gallagher inspired jacket, where it gives me a little bit of extra room and I can just analyze everything. How are Tim and Craig playing together? What's their interaction? How are they playing as individuals? How does this all amount to the band? Every little thing. And that's why then, as much as I like to
the answer is perfectly, by the way.
There we go. And despite all the listens and everything else, and which way and how I analyze the shit out of everything, I like to keep things simple. And that's why All the Rage to me speaks volumes of growth. And Tim, you share so much that, yes, okay, we've touched on the fact that some of this was written before. Was there any that were tweaked during the recording process, or was this literally just, oh shit, this is eerie because this fits now? Or were there songs that you tweaked to fit the current moment and the difficulty that you found yourself in?
We didn't really like tweak any. It was more so just, I was just like, say for a song like Upside Down, it's like maybe me and Craig were like, oh, let's not repeat the first verse and do that or whatever. But like there's songs that like Head First where the lyrics have just always been the same sort of thing, and it just fits on the album because it's authentic.
Simple as that.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that we had this chat. I really appreciate that you could both be involved in it. And I mean, it took like what, eight weeks to get to this point. I absolutely
sorry, that was our bad. For
God's sake, that wasn't like a jaded comment. No, I mean, it's all going to be when it is, but I would love to try and organize a way to buy. One thing that I do for contesting with the station is that everything is split 50-50. So half goes to me, my love of tea, Maltesers. I mean, if I say Tim Tams, I don't know if you're going to throw Rush at me and whatnot, I can say Tim Tams.
Love them.
And half of it goes to the What Was That Foundation. And then what the foundation does is, well, for example, in my first year, I earned $13,000 from subscribers and backers. That meant that there was $6,500 that would go towards the mental health and well-being of the people listening in the community in the first place, and also towards independent bands that we decided as a collective we wanted to support. And so what that amounts to is I've usually been buying a wealth of vinyl, 3 to 5 copies, get them signed, give them away. And by going directly to the independent band, it means that they get actually the money back to actually clear the debt that it cost to make the fucking vinyl in the first place. And just trying to make sure. So when I first commented on that picture on Twitter weeks ago saying, oh, I like that vinyl. And that's how that conversation started, because that's the organic way I go about trying to start a connection in the first place, rather than send an email and be like, oh, I'll talk to you. I'll send a few tweets or whatever and be like, you know, I like this, just so the face seems familiar first, and then be like, right, okay, you've engaged, let's chat.
Yeah, totally nailed it. I knew we were going to get along from those interactions straight away. You know what I mean? When I was telling Tim, I'm like, we're going to have a chat to this guy, John. It's going to be chill. It's going to be good.
Oh yeah, it's going to be chill.
Yeah.
It's going to be
I like
chill.
the fact that you sort of like based it around the anxiety rather than it just being like someone who probably hasn't done their research and then they'll just throw like an anxiety question in the middle sort of thing. You know what I mean? I really appreciate that the whole thing was really about this.
Yeah, that, Tim, hits the nail on the head, because that's one of the biggest, I don't think quandary is the right word. It's one of the biggest, not concern, it's one of the biggest pet peeves, I guess, I have in having spent all those years as a kid. You know, when you're 11 making a radio demo, you're not going to get signed when you're 11. But I've been making demos since then on my dad's cassette player. And when I started interviewing people for more serious demos at 15, I still look back at some of those bands and be like, I wonder where they are now. It's just always been my approach in that I don't expect any answer unless I've opened a door to comfort in order to get it. And that's the biggest thing. That I even spoke with someone last week called Alan Cross, who has been in commercial radio, rock radio, to be clear, here in Canada for 40 years. He was the person I spoke to last week before this chat.
He's a radio icon.
Oh, do you know him?
I've even heard of him. Yeah, I had a look, because I saw that you'd interviewed him,
right.
And I was like, Alan Cross, I know that name. And then I Googled him and I was like, oh, that dude. You know what I mean? Like, even I've heard of him over here. But he's
a walking clinic of going about broadcasting. However, he's also a walking clinic of broadcasting with that mixture of old school mindset. And so when I spoke to him last week, I mean, I've known him for 10 years. Fleeting, we're not best friends, for goodness sake, but I always wanted to get to Toronto. I wanted to get to the station that he worked at, and he was trying to help me get over there. And so he's been a mentor per se, and a wonderful soul for many years. It's not worked out. It's led to me leaving and doing my own thing to seek growth in a different way. But when I spoke to him, that was the first time we'd spoken really, and certainly publicly, where we weren't affiliated to anything. He's a full independent. He still works for those other stations, but he's independent. I obviously don't work for anyone. And I was talking to him about that style of how he goes about it. He's got 4 steps. His 4 steps are: your proxy to all fans that ever want to speak to that band. Don't fuck it up. Don't be a jerk. Be polite is step 2. And step 3 is you might have 10 questions, but realize you only asked 2, maybe 3. Whereas my step to going about interviews is to have no questions, and is to try and find the way I would approach 10-minute interviews. That's why I always ask for an hour. It's like, I'm going to speak to the Lazy Eyes from Australia next week or the week after. And then when I asked their team for an hour, they're like, ooh, we can do half an hour. And I was like, fucking result. That's great. Because if the artist is prepared for 10 minutes, then it's okay, it's done. But if they know it might be an hour, and even though it's half an hour, if it grows to an hour, then everyone's comfortable knowing that there wasn't me trying to get something out of them. Because a lot of artists maybe feel that the interviewer is trying to get something. Like, we're going back to your point here, Tim, which is you can't just get an answer when you throw it. Exactly. And that's the difficulty, is that all these broadcasters, they see the NME short video of the question comes up and says, what's your favorite album right now? And then it's being asked. Yeah. They don't see the poor soul that's got to ask that. And the artists go, well, hang on a second. Do I want to answer that? Well, it's NME. I guess I should answer it.
The only time I had to just cop it, because the national radio station over here, Triple J, I was speaking to the main head of that guy, and it was like a 20-minute interview, and I was like, I know that I got to be open here, and this is my chance to show people that it's okay to be able to talk about anxiety and be sad and all that. And I did get a lot of messages after the fact saying how brave I was and all that, because a lot of men don't like to talk about that stuff. You know, they feel like it's going to make them weaker and stuff. Whereas I feel like it helps me grow. And if there's somebody else listening that feels that way, then hopefully that helps them, feel a little more at ease.
Yeah, and all that weakness is doing is containing it to the self, and then the self destructs in different situations that cause harm in their immediate community, and then community shit. You just
exactly.
got to go.
I just feel like it's sort of going back on what Craig said. It's all about experience, and I'm a bit younger than him, so it's taken me a while to work it out, and then pair that with doing drugs and all that stuff, which doesn't help. But you got to learn,
and you got to be gentle to yourself as well, in knowing that there is no time limit on anything, because every day is growth. I mean, the biggest thing for me in moving in with Jody, who I love, and Jody's got a son, Harley, who's 7, and I've been here nearly a year at Christmas. It was just before Christmas last year I moved in, and I thought, oh yeah, I'm in my mid-30s. I always wanted kids. I'm good with kids. But until you actually are living in the experience of every day, I mean, I thought I was all about being in the moment. I moved to Canada. I think this is going back to Craig, like 35, 40 minutes ago. You know, I moved to Canada because I didn't want to die. That's what it boils down to, is that I felt very restricted. I felt in a system that was suck it up and get on with it. And I love my parents and my family dearly. It's a huge wrench that they're not just across the road or just here, but I had to do what selfishly was the best for me because I wanted to live.
Yeah.
And so
need to progress. Yeah.
I had some, again, much like with Craig earlier, I'm not going to go into every little bit of detail, but I was sexually abused by 2 strangers when I was 10 at elementary school. I don't know who they are. They were never found. And then because of that, the insecurity and not knowing, well, I thought I knew who I was. And then I went through all these different characters trying to find out who I was in my teenage years. You know, I'm the grunge guy, I'm the emo guy, I'm this guy, right? You know, one day I'm into Pearl Jam, then it's Finch, then it's just everything in between. If I had just shared that shit, how different would the last 24 years have been? So then when I get to in my early 20s and I'd been applying, and when I got rejected from Troop Radio, and I was like, who the fuck wants to go to a war zone and try and be fun? I got to go somewhere else.
To be fair, like it's people are only starting to like open up about that stuff, you know what I mean? Like I was talking to my mom about anxiety the other day, and she said that, like, you know, she's got like 4 other siblings, and she'd always feel like so anxious and wouldn't be able to tell anybody, you know what I mean? Like we're lucky that in this day and age that like it's becoming to be on the internet and stuff, and people can actually talk about it, because if I went another few years without talking to anyone about it, I'd be suffering still.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
And I can't even imagine what that was like for you. Really appreciate you feeling comfortable sharing that sort of stuff with us, man.
Well, it's got to the point now, Craig, where it feels almost blasé.
Awesome. Yeah.
Because it's not got a chain around me anymore.
That's amazing, man.
And that's why I sometimes feel, you know, I'll be frank with you, in the last few years of my career before I left commercial radio, I would start throwing in that context without any kind of warning to a guest, and they'd be like, oh shit. And even though their record might have been written about oh shit moments.
Yeah.
So that's why it's always, you got to have that awkward tango at the start. Like our first 10 minutes of that, like, okay, let's just shuffle around the room, get to figure out the flow of these 2 and then the flow of me. And then it bursts into this galvanized brilliance that we've been talking for a fucking hour at this point.
Man, I already can't wait till we're over there one day, or you're here and we can hang out.
Oh, I can't wait either, because it's going to happen.
Hell yeah.
And it's just the one thing actually that I was saying to Jody a few days ago, if you guys are down, is what I think I'd like to do is maybe every 2 months or every 3 months, after like speaking with 10 bands or something, is reach out to those bands and say, hey, would you be willing to come into a group chat where there's 4 or 5 bands with a couple of members in each chat? Because it's like when I was speaking to Bexley from Seattle, well, based out of LA the other day, they ended up having shown around one of my best friends at NAMM, like a music convention in wherever, Los Angeles, a few years ago. I was like, oh shit, would have been really cool to bring Brett in on that. And then they're like, oh my God, we haven't seen you in 5 years. But I just think as well, in speaking with them, they were like talking about how they become very intrigued by Spotify, putting them in certain playlists, and they're like, oh, who are Yonica? Or who are Sophisticated Dingo? And I was like, oh fuck, I love all these bands too. I mean, and I just think it'd be really refreshing if they're trying to find touring mates, or they're trying to find, it's like Pup, for example. We'll go back to Pup. So when I went with them, they had befriended a fan in Seattle. We stayed at his house for the weekend. Duncan, his name was. And that's how they can find a way to go to Australia, is that they make genuine connections. They're thankful for them. They're transparent and communicate effectively within that conversation and that connection, to go, okay, well, look, we'll get a hotel in San Fran, but we're covered in Seattle, thanks to Duncan. Maybe when we're in Adelaide, okay, so-and-so, or if we're in Melbourne, Australia, next door, Victoria, right? And this is what I find so fascinating about the world. And for me, since the Bebos and the MySpaces and the Facebook came in many years back, is that we've lost sight of what it was before technology, in that you had to build community.
Oh, of course.
You had to build community.
Yeah. Remember knocking on people's doors to see if they were home?
Yeah. You know, remembering ignoring the phone call because you wanted just a few more minutes before you wanted to speak to that friend to go next door and play in the first place. I just want to finish my shit first, you know. I know it's Tim next door, you know.
But you're right. It's that real connection we all formed with Pup as a perfect example. It's like, if they ever come back here and they, out of the blue, will call Tim and be like, dude, we need a guitar. Tim will be like, here you go. Do you need somewhere to stay? Do you need me to pick you up from the airport? Like, that's because it was real. And you just like, you know what I mean? And they've probably got that all over the planet, which is just beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, like-minded people. It's just like the same deal with Basement as well. We're lucky enough to tour with Basement, with my old band, and Title Fight as well. And they were all just like the same people, you know what I mean? They just like, they were so down to earth and genuine, and they're the sort of people that actually got to pick us as a support and listen to our music and see the authenticity inside it, you know?
Yeah, those two really cool bands as well. Have you ever had a moment where you've, because I said this with Alan, it's in my mind from the other day, because Alan Cross has spoken to everyone, and he was telling me about when he spoke to Bowie or U2 or etc. And you're just melting, just, oh my God.
Wow.
And I said to him, have you ever, and he's not someone that necessarily shares too much, so I didn't think he was going to give me an answer. He didn't really. And I said to him, have you ever met someone that you had that slight hiccup where you went, oh my God, it's you? Because the only time in my life that I've done that, since I've been hired, since I was working in radio, was with Frank Turner. It's the same story I told him the other day, is that I was over in Vancouver catching up with my friends Arkels, and I cheekily did message Max and say, can I come to that show? Because I really want to meet Frank. So I listened to Million Dead years ago. I fucking love Frank Turner. And I know he's 6 foot plus. I'm 6 foot. He's a lot taller. But I'd gone for a smoke to calm down. I was stoned, and I walked into the fucking changing room, and Max is like, here's Frank. And I was like, oh, Frank, you're much taller than I imagined. I don't know where, I don't know where it came from. And it was devastating because it immediately shit on any kind of connection. He went, oh yeah, thanks, man. Yeah. I was like, well, I love Million Dead, and now I seem like a fucking prune, and it's okay, but you know. And he's like, well, have you got any cigarettes? And I was like, no, I've just smoked the last thing I had. And he's like, oh, I'm gonna go for a cigarette. And then I was like, oh my God, John, you went from 30 years old to fucking 3. What are you doing?
I smoked your last ciggy when you could have had it with him.
Dude,
that's amazing.
And I was sleeping in the student car park, like multi-story car park, 'cause it was a campus show, waiting to get the 5 a.m. ferry. And I was trying to sleep, and I was like, you fucking idiot, man. But have you ever had a moment where, you know, that's happened? Or it's obviously a different realm, but
I think the closest I've been was I grew up as a massive Silverchair fan.
Yeah.
And one time my band was the Bennies. We were supporting this band called The Living End in Newcastle, where Silverchair are from.
Yeah, where he's got his bar.
Yeah, exactly. And so we played the show. We're upstairs playing ping pong in the band room. And then I see Chris Jono, the bass player, over in the corner of the room. And I'm freaking. Like, I don't know. That's the one guy that just sort of got me like, okay, you know, I'm a bass player here. I'm obsessed with this guy. And so I was talking to the Living End guys. And I'm like, I really want to go say hi to him, but I'm freaking out. You know what I mean? And they're like, just go say hi, whatever. And normally I wouldn't give a shit, but just, you know, I had that thing. You're just like, okay, I'm freaking out now. So anyway, he comes over to me and he goes, hey, are you the bass player from the Bennies? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, my best friend here came to see you guys play. Can he get a photo with you? And so I'm like, okay. So I'm standing there with his best friend taking a photo, and he's taking the photo, and I'm sitting there going, I want the photo with him, but now I can't fucking do this. You know what I mean? And so the closest I ever got to sort of meeting him was him being behind a camera and then walking away. And I was like, fuck. But
so you never got the photo?
Yeah. No, I don't even know where it happened. Like I didn't get tagged in it or anything. It was just me and his best mate.
That is shocking. No photo cred for a backstage show. That's shocking.
Yeah, I know. But he was lovely. At least it wasn't one of those things where he was like a jerk or something. But I didn't get what I wanted.
Do you still have the phone?
Nah.
No, because Alan Cross is on my mind. When I first met him years ago, and he was doing an interview as a guest in the morning on the Morning Zone, they pulled my headphones out the drawer to speak with him, and I just got into broadcasting, and I was like, never fucking using these again. These go in a special case. No one fucking touch them, please. Yeah. Anyway.
Love it. Yeah, see, I haven't really had a moment like that, but I do have a moment like that in my dreams. I have reoccurring Dave Grohl dreams.
Yeah.
It's fucking scary. So I always meet this guy, right? And I know that like I'd break down and do the same thing that you guys were talking about if I ever met Dave Grohl. And it's just like every time I ask him for a photo, he doesn't want to do it and the dream ends. And that happens like at least like twice a week or something. It's crazy.
Oh,
and it's so vivid as well.
Okay, we got to take a deep dive into Foo Fighters. I mean, one of the many tattoos I've got here is the I don't know if you can see that on the. I have to fucking stand up. I've got two cameras, but you see the. Is that on the right camera?
Oh, yeah.
Echo Silence,
Patience and Grace. Yeah, just because this is a sort of amalgamation. I don't know if I can use that word with tattoo, but it's a collective of my favorite bands, and it's artwork
awesome.
that alludes to them, but isn't necessarily straight away noticeable. So there's a reference to Queens of Stone Age and Deftones and the Cat Empire, who Australians
Huge.
up on under here with the scar hat, Foo Fighters, and there is an awful lot of Deftones, Muse down here, but I mean. Not every band I love is on my body, otherwise you wouldn't see my face. But those are huge for me. I mean, I grew up learning trumpet, learning piano, going to school, and the teacher was so desperate to get me in the fucking choir, and I just always wanted to smash the shit out of drums. And I said to my parents, when I get into radio, I'm going to start a record collection, and I'm going to do drums. I actually had started learning in my middle teens because when I went to a performing arts school, there was like a showcase and this drummer pulled out and they were doing like Dancing in the Moonlight and a few like Clash and just a few like classic rock, songs. And I was like, oh, I can do that. I can do that. And so within 3 weeks, I taught myself to be ready for that show and then bought an electric kit and just plugged in the iPod and just started going. And so Dave Grohl, for me, I mean, he was the poster boy. He was, I remember vividly just being glued to MTV to watch the premieres of the new videos and being blown away by the Best of You video and just, just.
So good.
I mean,
it's just like.
Yeah, sorry, mate.
Yeah, no, it's like, I think the thing that shines is like what we've been talking about is like the authenticity of him. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't really change in a huge way. And it's crazy. Just he's like everything he does inspires me. It's crazy. Like I'll just like want to write a song if I watch an episode of Sonic Highways per se, you know what I mean? It's just like, it's amazing. He's literally God to me.
I'm right there with you, man. When I saw the Them Crooked Vultures surprise show on YouTube, let's be frank, when they rocked up at Reading, when they first did their thing, I cried watching it. And I actually, it's one of my go-tos in referencing back here to Craig, when I asked you, what are some of your crutches that you go back to help you alleviate stress and anxiety in that moment, is I go back and I watch that Them Crooked Vultures. And I watched that first 3 minutes when the crowd start to realize, holy shit, this is John Paul Jones. This is Dave Grohl. This is Josh Homme. This is Alan as well. What a collective. And just when Dave first gets put on that screen and the people at the back can fucking see and the wave, and I just break down crying like, fuck, I just yearn. I yearn to chat with this guy, to sit on a drum kit and have people go, yes, play, John, play like Dave. I mean, yeah, and this is obviously what Craig noticed I was pulling down a second ago, the storyteller book. I mean, yeah, that's how we want to speak to him, Tim. We want to just be laying back. Like, that's why I always try and just lay back in this. Yeah. Let's get some deck chairs and meet up in Australia with Dave and try and have a chat.
Yeah.
We'll get there one day.
Have you ever thought about sending him stuff? I mean, it's like, I don't know if you guys know about the band Kills Birds, but like with his new studio, and he heard of them and was like, yo, come and record an album at my studio. And have you ever felt compelled to email just something through the studio and see if you can get through to him? Or just let it organically go?
I kind of feel like if it happens, it'll happen. Like, we just got to be ourselves, you know what I mean? And hopefully one day the paths cross, you know? It sounds ridiculous, but we've got friends from Amel and the Sniffers that are playing with them now.
Oh, I
You know what I mean?
fucking
And
love that new
they
album.
They never set out one of their goals. Let's email Dave Grohl. Let's do this. They're just being themselves, and it happens. You know what I mean? And so I kind of feel like that's the way to go. You know.
Even like our mates Cosmic Kahuna, so I played in this old band called Grim Rhythm, and we're just like, you know, playing like the local pub, never selling it out, nothing like that. And then all of a sudden they've been invited by Dave Grohl to play the festival over there just because they like played a show with them in Melbourne. It's just like, they didn't do anything like that, so why should we? You know what I mean? It's just like, you'll get yourself noticed. It's just like Black Mountain as well. Like when Dave Grohl posted about them, I was like, holy shit, that's so cool. You know what I mean? It just feels a bit like grabby to try just email them and be like, hey, listen to my band. We sound like Foo Fighters.
Yeah. I feel like if you're dreaming about him, it might happen. But if not, I mean, fuck yeah. You know, he's still a legend. He's still inspirational. He's probably got enough mates. He probably doesn't need us. But man, you just never know. I mean, he never thought he'd be mates with Paul McCartney.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't draw a line there. It just happened. So you just,
you never thought you'd be friends with Tim Maxwell, and here you are.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. You know, don't put yourself down. Yeah. See the power. Feel the power. You are. Oh God, this is turning into the bobsleigh team. Feel the rhythm, feel the rhyme. Let's go. It's fucking loser time. Come on, Jesus.
I'm gonna kiss an egg.
I love that, actually, the typo I put in the Zoom meeting. I was like, a conversation with losers. I was like, oh, for fuck's sake. Why did you have to put the one S in there?
I thought that was clever.
Yeah, that was good.
Oh, shit. Well, fuck, there you go. All right. Well, we're all losers in our own way. But no, there you go. No, I think, but that's the hashtag of this whole chat: authenticity. I'm so glad. And Jodie was saying to me in the kitchen before this, she's like, "You need this conversation. Go and have the conversation. Don't rearrange it." And that's not me trying to worm my way out of it. I'll keep going until I don't have anything else that I could think of to say. I just want to keep absorbing the energy, like you were saying, Tim, earlier. How you found yourself very similar. This is what I find so fascinating. This is what I thoroughly enjoy about the path that I'm choosing now. Is that I've spoken with people in the last 2 weeks that lyrically it speaks to me, whether that's a slap round the face, a punch in the gut, or the heart's getting flipping squeezed a little bit. And I won't speak for you. I'll speak for me. But I see a lot of similarities, man. And so when I listen through to this work and I write down growth and I listen through to the delivery of which, the performance throughout, it's just my favorite thing to do is to connect with the similar mindset. Like you said, you're not alone, but more so when I was at school, I was always, my best friends they were about to graduate. I was 11, they were about to graduate. I was 12, they were about to graduate. 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. I've always just, without any particular reason that I could let you know about right now, been attracted to the energy of the wiser individual. And I think that speaks tenfold because it's a little bit involved with the two guys that shaped my life in a way that I didn't know. And then a little bit about trying to maybe figure out, for protection of oneself, how do these fucking older minds work? How do these more established minds go about doing their thing? So that's why I'm just so intrigued by your band and so grateful for the time you've given. This has been seriously fucking refreshing and very much appreciated.
Awesome. Dude, it's a bloody nice feeling, to have cooked up something in Tim's studio and have someone on the other side of the world understand it and feel compelled enough to discuss it with us. And here we are.
Totally.
That's the power of music right there. Connection, man. That's beautiful.
Yeah,
exactly. I think from what you were saying about the lyrics and stuff, it's just like you could literally just have the song "So" on there, and that's like just raw honesty. Like I don't usually write like that, but that is just like, you cannot get any more honest than that.
Yeah, and did you positioned it as the what's the word I'm thinking of here that I usually use so much? What's the word, the fancy word that is before the last one? Penultimate. Thank you, Craig. Is that why you positioned it penultimately? Is there a reason why it goes so to meant to be?
Not lyrically. It would just felt like the right flow.
Energy-wise.
It was just trying to balance the dynamics across the album to keep pulling you through. It felt a little sort of like up earlier. It was a bit too. It was almost like it felt like a pre-chorus, that song. You know what I mean? It's not the ballad ending, but it's not the upbeat banger. So it just felt like a nice one, you know.
it's just cool how like yeah, you can sort of like keep it slack, but it's still like authentic. Like where we're talking about growth and all that, the chorus lyrics are literally like, so give me a reason to grow. I lack attention, you know. I think I blew it again. I'm selfish, but I need friends. How do you do it?
Yeah. It's whimsical, it's honest, it's brilliant for me. It's just what gets me going is I'm just going to repeat what we've said the last hour. So you were saying then that it's crazy right now. The world is changing. Australia's opening up a little bit more. And what is on the horizon then? Are you focusing on plugging in shows? Are you cognizant of maybe waiting a little bit? Or
just let's play some shows.
Yeah, they're booking them right now. We've got an album launch show happening in a few weeks in Melbourne. And then as the rest of the country opens up, we're just going to start doing laps. And in the meantime, we're writing the next album. We recently sat through, we do this thing where there's all four of us get in a room and we listen to every demo. So we had like about 100 demos for this next album. And then we all listen through and it's like whatever all four of us immediately go, oh, that could be something, that gets shifted to the side. And then we work on them. So we've got about 30 songs now that are like a big piece of ugly marble and we're just chipping them away now.
And what does a demo sound like to you, Craig? Sorry to talk over you. What does a demo sound like? Are you talking fully fleshed out, roughly written songs with vocal too, or just the idea of a riff, or how does that sound and look?
Well, Tim is pretty great at demoing in as much as it pretty much completes an idea. So most of the demos are pretty much fully done. This time around, there's less vocals on them than we probably have had previously. But if something's just a riff or something, it doesn't get past the demo test yet. We'll have to finish them up before we choose.
I think that like the overwhelming like thought of just doing like 2 albums like sort of straight away, it's like now I'm like at that place for the first time in a while where it almost feels a bit writer's blocky. Like, you know, I don't know where to take it next. Like, that's why it's good to be able to work together on it. So we're trying a different way of doing things, like, you know, producing the song, like writing the song together in the room or whatever. And then we'll just track our parts one by one sort of thing, rather than just like me just doing everything and then be like, all right, you play this part, you play this part, you know what I mean? It's like, I feel like I'm like, after those 2 years of just being stuck at home, it's like you need that inspiration of your friends around you to tell you that is really good. You're not just sitting here in your own head being like, oh, I don't know, this is good, oh, that's too simple, this is too that, nobody's gonna like it, you know what I mean? Because that's when it all just falls to pieces for me.
Well, yeah, and you're working on hundreds of threads of thought at the same time. I mean, that in turn then you start breaking down every little bit, it's going to drive you insane. It's going to take away and distract from the fun of it.
And see, that's where the power of OCD as a positive energy comes in, because Tim can write as many threads as he wants, and then I'll just come in and organize them up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's great
like flipping that neg into a positive. You know, use that laser beam for good.
I still think you should start an AC/DC cover band called OCDC.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah, man.
Do you have this?
But everyone's just going to be on stage and be like, like they're worried about their tuning the whole time.
that could be the opening. Actually, you come out and everyone spends the first 10 minutes just tuning.
Yeah, or just checking their pedal connections and stuff.
And the final countdown is playing.
And tuning. That'd be perfect.
Yeah. Check 1 2 1 2. You have to check 1 2.
Are you sure you can hear this?
Yeah.
Crowd, can you hear this too? Okay, can we test the reverb? Reverb, too much. Back it up. That's good. Thank you. Yeah.
See, it's like if you started hanging out with me and Craig any longer than this, you'll realize that as deep as we can go, like sarcasm is one of our favorite things. We'll just love it.
It's crucial though. It's crucial. You gotta let it out. You gotta goof out, man. That's why, I mean, I got so lost this morning in feeling so anxious that I forgot, you know, you forget that you have that other side of you. But at the same time, that's what I've been really working on the last 20 years is respecting the time it takes to get out of that. It's going to be, and for me, it used to be, like I said to Jody when we were speaking about just growth and things a few days ago, it's like, you know, it used to take me 30 fucking days to get over something so minuscule. Used to take months. Now it's down to a few hours of and then eventually I start calling myself out, going, really, waste of time. Drop it.
Yeah.
You know, you can't hide it. You can't brush it under the carpet. It's always going to be part of you and part of your existence. It's, as Craig said, and as I've said an awful lot the last 10 years, turning it into a positive nugget, into a positive memory that you can then equip yourself with. Have a little invisible belt that you're like, fuck, I'm Spider-Man of positivity for myself, you know?
That's it.
Yeah, for sure.
Just sit with it till it bails. And then you feel you feel like a superpower because you got through it. You know, same way you've managed to round the hard edges off your experience into the point where you can talk about it and throw it into conversations, like you said, and it's not like doing what it did to you before. You can take that mindset for everything that bothers you. Just round off the edge.
Yeah, I do sometimes think back to how did the audience feel when I was on the air, and I used to be overnights. So I did overnights for about 2 months, then I was the evening guy for 5 years and the midday guy for 5 years. And I often think, like, you know, I literally used that room as therapy a lot of the time, and just stream of consciousness is where I'm at. And it's sort of, yes, it built a lot of respect and following, but I often wonder about what detrimental impact that could have made to people that weren't prepared for me to open up in the first place. You know, that are like, holy shit, what's this guy talking about? Like, okay, but there's other radio stations for that. It's called, you know, counseling hour. Like, why are you doing that on a modern rock station? I don't know, but I always
that's you. That's you being real.
Yeah,
that's the beauty. That's why people
will appreciate that in the long run. Man.
That's how you went from opening band to mid band to headliner. You know, early hours, overnight, midday.
Right. Yeah, and it's all part of the journey, and it's looking back at that growth. All right. So shows. Oh, sorry, Tim.
So like, I really appreciate you making me feel like I'm in a band today. It feels good.
Well, you are. You're in a very fucking good, exciting band, Tim.
Yeah, I know. Just haven't been able to play a show.
Yeah, and it's trippy as shit because, you know, from I don't want this to turn into every podcast, but I mean, I was in a band. I've been in bands, and we had to call it quits right before. We didn't even know the pandemic was a thing, but we had to, for mental health reasons as well, for one of our members. We were only a 3-piece that was struggling, and that has been a major part of the last year and a half, is that I've still paid for the jam spot. All our gear is still there. I still kind of hope that we can, knowing that we won't. And so that is what's played into how I'm going to take what could be 3 hours of chat and give you a 30-second rundown. Is that I was feeling unfulfilled in broadcasting the last 3-4 years of my career. I was feeling like I was constantly asking to help, to grow, to seek. And the company was really struggling in their major stations in the bigger cities. And we're in a great spot here, but, you know, you yearn sometimes. In my younger years, it's like, this is clearly more than fucking 30 seconds. You know, you yearn to be like, you know, you want to meet Dave Grohl, or maybe you want to play Reading Festival. Well, we've got to get to Reading. So what I've thrown away, to summarize that, is that I don't care about the millions and millions anymore. I care about the importance of what the impact of the few can do. Now, also, because I had Stinging Bell and we were doing our thing, and traction was building, and yes, through the fortunate of being in this bubble of artists and bands and leaning on friends and promoters and radio, how do we do this, and for grants and this, that, and the other, and how can we do that, and how can we had avenues that others did not have for conversations. And so I was yearning to do a pup. In speaking with Stefan and Steve, like, we want to come and jump on the road with you if you think we're good enough in 2, 3, 4 years, and just, like you said in your interviews that I've read the last few, Tim, I just want to get out there. I don't care about the consequence. I care about the growth and the journey. Let's go. And I think the reason why I'm here now, here's my summary, gentlemen, is that lust that I had for, like, well, if I can balance it, knowing that I'm just going to clock in and clock out and make a midday show and have the constraints of what I can and can't do, but then I've got that beast that is the band, and I can go, and the boss was going to give me 6 weeks off to go on tour. They were going to work with that. They wanted the fact that also our lead singer was the promotions director, Ali, and that she was this badass, fearless performer. And I was like, okay, well, maybe that's how I can do it. Then when that avenue broke down, and the people are more important than the band, I was like, okay, well, then I met Jody. And I was like, let's get the fuck out of this. Let's get out, because that hole that's missing means I need to dive into trying and building my own thing. And that's where we're at. And that's why we're talking right now. So it's
awesome. Yeah, it's like you'd positioned it in a way where everything had to be just so, and then it was going to work out. And then one thing falls away, and then it's like, all right, now I'm just stuck with this job that I didn't want. And I've lost the big thing that I was using the job for or something.
Well, no, I wanted to still be in the job. Oh yeah, you're talking about your own experience. Sorry.
Oh no, I thought you meant like the broadcast job. You know what I mean? Now
I still want to be in radio.
And it's yeah. It's now you're your own boss, and it's like you've created both together now.
Exactly. Yeah. Like radio is still powerful, whether it's commercial, FM, AM, or Sirius, whether it's online like I am. I've got nothing against it. It's all from a want to grow as an individual. But
that's it, man. Yeah, now you're doing it, you're on your own. It's way better. You've combined all the passions into one thing.
Yeah, now it's just on those anxious days, just remembering the foundation of the belief and the passion that led to this in the first place. You know, I actually wrote, if I may share, so what I have is thank you packages I've put together for the 100 people that backed me in year one. So they all get a tote bag, and then there's stickers and postcards and all sorts in it.
Sick.
That's so awesome.
So they'll get a little, what was that postcard to send to a friend, but then it's all got the QR code to scan it, and all little bits and pieces, stuff like that. But and lanyards and blah 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 blah. Yeah. But what I also then wrote was a letter, and I was going to handwrite these. My handwriting is like that of a rampant guinea pig who's learning how to write. It's illegible. It's you can't read it.
A rampant guinea pig.
That's a sentence I've never said in my life, but it's just
now you have.
You can't read it. But this goes back to what you were talking about 40 minutes ago, Tim, in how you approach failure. And so I'm not going to read the whole fucking thing. I'm not going to read the whole thing. What I'm going to read is the closing statement, which is, I don't fear failure. I fear regret. What was born out of a passion and lust to keep moving forward, to keep growing. You've been a part of that journey. Know how I don't take that for granted. That's the penultimate paragraph in the thank you letter.
Hell yeah, man. That's how you sign off a thank you letter. That's it.
That's so good.
So
don't fear failure. I fear regret. That's massive.
And that's what I hope anyone that I connect with and talk about, especially as transparent as this, is that they realize that it's up to you, and you're allowed to be in control of what you do, and you're allowed to feel how you feel. And the self-comparison that I battle every fucking day, let's make no bones about it, can be very dangerous. And Steve's just written in chat, lol, my last letter I was able to read maybe half of it. So I've moved away, Steve, as you know, from the handheld notes, because I keep getting fucking sassed about they're not legible. And Jody, my partner, was
guinea pig handwriting.
She was chuckling up a storm when I went up into the bedroom, and I was so focused, and I had my little lap tray with all my paper ready to write. And I read to her the note I'd written about, here's what I'm going to write on these notes. And she was like, on 60 plus of them. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, good.
Because she knows me. She knows that I'm going to get 3 or 4 in and be like, my arm hurts. I can't read it. Yeah. What am I doing? Yeah. So.
Totally, man. The first few will be awesome, and then it just gets slantier and faster. And
oh, God. Like, yeah. And I think, Steve, you probably got one of the first couple I wrote when I did that letter of postcards. Yeah, because the rest, the feedback came in from the rest, and it was, can you translate this, please? And there it is. Oh, dear.
Amazing.
Dude.
Anyway, so what's the plan with the rest of the day? Like, you're up now. It's what is it? Nearly lunchtime for you, isn't it? At this point?
Yeah, I'm gonna have the best day ever now, because I've had my first coffee, barely awake, and I've just been talking to awesome humans all morning. So.
Yeah, well, the rest of the day, I'm gonna go into a studio where a band called Team Jesus and the Gene Teasers are recording.
Good
just
grief.
Pop in and say g'day, and then tonight, I don't know if you're still coming, Timmy. This band called Divers are playing in Melbourne. And they are shit hot.
Okay. Are they Australian too?
Songs. Check out they've got a song called Lost With You.
Okay.
The band's called Divers. What a band.
While
So we're gonna
while you're writing bands down there, John, you've probably heard of both these bands already, but check out the new Angel Dust record and the new Teenage Wrist record.
Oh my God. Yeah. The Teenage Wrist in particular has been a high rotation the last few months.
Hell yeah.
Not to be mistaken with, who was it the other day that I made a few foul, the other day, you'll get probably a joke. You'll get I was in a bit of I'm going to email bands today and just plant the seed for multiple chats. And so I was trying to get in touch with Teenage Wrist. And I think I emailed, I don't have it here in my email. I've deleted it because I was so embarrassed by it. I put a typo in the email address, and it ended up emailing another band, and that happened with a few bands.
Oh,
I think,
no.
and let me pull up this one example because I can't.
Now all I can picture is like your guinea pig handwriting as a font on your computer.
Oh shit,
like
genius.
All your emails look like that.
We should totally do that. No, I think I deleted it. Jody, what was the band that I emailed and messed up?
Teenage Fist.
Tiger Club. Yeah, and then I also emailed Tiger Club, but there's a band, Teenage Wrist and Tiger Cub are two of my heavy rotation records this year. And so I thought I was, after Teenage, I emailed Tiger Cub, but again, midnight typo, I put Tiger Club. Now, I got a wonderfully warm response back from Tiger Club. I'm going to play you a little sample of what Tiger Club are.
And so this is you thinking it was Tiger Cub.
Yes.
And you've got a response from Tiger Club.
Yeah, let me just... So for those that aren't aware of Tiger Cub, they sound like this. I'll skip it in a bit. Brilliant. Stop beating on my heart like a bass drum. Brilliant. Now, Tiger Club don't actually have a Spotify account, so you got to go to their website for that. And why is it so hard to find? I feel like he's barred me. He's got VPN. He knows I'm going to haunt him.
Bandcamp, maybe.
The Tiger Club. Here we are. Yes, this has taken a while. It better be worth it. And I assure you, it fucking will. Music. Here is who actually emailed me back. It's brilliant. It's not quite the vibe I thought I was emailing. So there you go. That's
it's like a Nando's ad.
It is.
That instantly made me want to eat Nando's, and that's what I'm probably gonna get for lunch.
Tiger Club, man, I like it.
Come and get our new grilled cheese for just $3.99. Yeah. So wonderful. Baxter Robertson emailed me back. He was really excited to talk, and then I felt like an absolute imbecile, and he never replied to my apology email saying, no excuse, there was a typo, and I feel terrible about that. I don't wish to speak with you yet. Even though Jody was like, you should still do it like Mistaken, like the Mistaken podcast. I'm like, well, maybe in the future we'll reach out. Anyway, on the topic of that. So one thing that when you go to whatwasthatradio.com and then discover, there's the Discover portal, everything that I play is playlisted, whether that's on the station and you can see everything I play on the request widget on the listen part of the site, or Spotify, everything is there. But I have another couple of things, which is artists recommending artists. It's not changing the wheel. And I would love if you both be up to it to take your time. Look, the band priority is more important than this blog, but if you could go to the website, check it out, and I can link you. And if you're willing to suggest three to five bands you think we've got to know about in the modern rock realm, nothing older than 24, 36 months, and then it gets blogged, and then in turn it allows me to showcase you, and then you to showcase them, and then it's just a more round circle of that. Okay. So that's something that I do that I'd love you guys to consider.
Love that. Yeah, I'm keen.
Man. And then definitely I think it would be sweet to connect maybe, depending on how the world goes, midway through next year, bring in a few bands and have a little get together and expand the networks a bit. I think that would be pretty sweet too.
So keen, man. So keen.
Okay.
My computer is on 5%.
Yeah. My bladder's at 5% after drinking 10 cups of tea.
Yeah, I just been watching you drink tea and Craig drink coffees, and I'm just like, I'm so hungry and thirsty.
Yeah, boy.
So I think this is a wonderful moment to just cap it there, because we're going to have a lot more conversation in the future. But
yeah, dude.
Tim and Craig, it's been a real delight. I really appreciate it. Tim, this is for me what I would write down in a memory bank, right? Is when you say to me, wow, this has galvanized me. It's not from a bragging standpoint. It's not from, oh my God, I'm so good at conversing with people. It's because we made a fucking connection. So I'm going to remember that for a long time. So I hope that you do, and I know you will do as well. But this has been delightful. Thank you.
Dude, the start of a beautiful friendship.
Yeah,
Thanks
exactly, Craig.
Appreciate the raw honesty, and we know each other now. So if you're ever feeling crap, then you can message me or Craig whenever you like.
Oh well, thanks, mate. That's very kind.
Dude.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, you go and have a wonderful rest of your day in Melbourne. I've been cognizant of trying not to say how's the future, but I've done it now and it's out. So I know that anyone else I speak to in Oceania, I'm not going to be a fucking idiot and say, what's the rest of my day going to be like? Yeah, the future is so fucking dark, John. Strap in. No, sorry. Sorry.
I'm loving the bird.
All right, Steve, thank you for watching. Thank you everyone in the chat that's been here. Academy Impossible, Anyto, Dynaterra, Feet, Jotiwan, Twitching Her Box, which CJ, that's still such a wonderful name. WTR Trucker Steve, anyone that's come and gone throughout this, thank you very much. And also, I should say to you too, rather than sending you an email that you can't read due to its is that this will be a part of the podcast 5 weeks from now. This will go on my YouTube 5 weeks from now. But everything I do, I always throw back to the artist. You review it. You either watch it the whole way through and go, yep, or you go, no, I don't need to. It's good. But you always, as the artist, get the last say and the sign off before anything is released, because this conversation is as much your art as it is my art. And that's how it goes.
Respect it, man. Thank you so much, John.
All right. Yeah. Bumps. I wish I had my rings on today.
All the rage, baby.
Yeah. Have you guys, the last thing, have you heard of the Great Frog, the jewelry maker?
The Great Frog.
The Great Frog. So a bucket list thing for me growing up was, I always wondered, well, what is that leather jacket that Josh is wearing? Josh Homme, Tim. What is that ring that Alex Turner's got on? What is that ring that Lemmy's got on of Motorhead? I don't think you need to say Motorhead after you say Lemmy, but there you go. The Great Frog. The Great Frog was started so long ago, and it's become a family business. They've got 3 locations in Europe. And it was always a bucket list to try and save up to buy a leather jacket and to buy some jewelry. And the joke is now I barely fucking wear it because it's so sacred. But I think you guys would be really into that style. So get a look at that.
Cool. All right. Great Frog or Grape Frog? Oh,
great with a T.
Boom.
Yeah. Now
Great Frog.
Great. So now it's not just my writing, Craig. It's my diction okay.
No, this is my hearing. That's my hearing.
You just order like a packet of grape frogs. You're just like, yeah, let me.
Okay, great. Yeah.
It's good enough for Lemmy.
Good enough for me. Fuck. All right. Have a fabulous rest of your day. We'll never end, because I don't want it to, but I know it needs to. So let's say goodbye and have a fabulous rest of your day, and we'll speak soon.
Thanks to you, John. Appreciate your time.
All right, fellas. Ciao for now.
Catch you, mate. Bye.
So that was a conversation with Tim and Craig of Loser, and wasn't it just incredible? I adore how open they were, how brave they were, and how flipping awesome and passionate they are as creators. Thanks for being here. And whatever you're doing with the rest of your day, and as always, please look after yourself. And I hope there's some fun and smiles involved in the rest of your day too, because they are so powerful, those positive nuggets. We got to cherish that positive. For now, cheerio.